Here we go with another episode of Rethink Real Estate. Is that today I'm going to be going through setting the appointment, but I know the episode is named Getting Price Before You Go. It's more of a little bit of a hook to try and get people to listen to the episode. However, this is a part of the process of listing presentations. One of the most request things that we get on a consistent basis is for me to do listing presentation training. But I have to admit is that this here and what I'm going to take you through today with setting the appointment and the structure of doing so is probably the catalyst to one, the level of confidence that you have when prospecting. I often find that if you don't have this process in play, that your prospecting is affected by it because you're not as confident with somebody going to say yes. But then also it affects your listing presentation because I don't think that you're as confident. This is the ultimate rapport builder when it comes to setting up the appointment correctly when you're going in for a competitive listing and how to do it appropriately. Hope you enjoy. It really is one of the real fundamental founding parts of any person's listing career is being able to do this properly. Welcome to Rethink Real Estate. My name is Ben Brady, and this is a real estate podcast aimed to deliver sales strategies, marketing tips, and business insights from industry experts and myself to build a listing-focused business for the future. Let's get into it. One of the most requested topics for me to talk about is always listing presentations. However, I think there's too much focus on the scripts and dialogues of a listing presentation itself. So today what I want to go through is I want to go through setting up the appointment. Now, this is an important element of it because it is actually the first impression that you make on the client, and it is your opportunity to sort of actually set the boundaries of the relationship in the very first degree. What I mean by that is to take control. So I want to start off with talking about one of which ways you can actually get a phone call inbound to you, or it might be you making an outward phone call prospecting and you actually get an appointment. Now, first things first when it comes to some context of this, not having a very set process that you use when setting up the appointment to go in and do a listing presentation makes you far more fearful of the yes. And what I mean by that is that in the prospecting element, if you do not have a process in place for setting up an appointment and getting to the listing, I really do believe that you are much more fearful of getting a yes when prospecting. And you aren't as confident in your prospecting dialogue. You aren't really digging for them to say, yes, okay, cool, come on over, whatever it is. You are actually subconsciously a little bit timid, I would say. I think timid's a good word, but timid would be the answer because you don't know, well, what do I have to do next? So it's kind of a little bit chicken before the egg, cart before the horse. I understand that. But having a set process to set that appointment and also then obviously having a listing presentation and understanding that should be the first thing that is trained on and should be the first thing that you have buttoned up before it comes down to your prospecting efforts, because I guarantee you that you will be at least 50% more confident when it comes to knowing what your next steps are. Don't get me wrong, doing and then ultimately going through the process is always going to give you more confidence, but realistically, I want to talk about today about setting the appointment. So somebody calls you, okay, or okay, you are doing outbound phone calls and then they're like, yes, okay, yeah, we are actually considering selling, or hey, why don't you come on over? So let's talk about all of that. First of all, is that you've got to be prepared for it to happen because at the end of the day, I've seen a lot of people that get an inbound phone call. If you've been prospecting in a neighborhood and you're new to real estate, is that you get an inbound phone call and someone goes, hi, Ben, I saw your flyer or I saw the sold sign at 38 Smith Street. Could you come over and talk to us about selling our home? We're actually considering it at the moment as well. Okay. So you've got to be really prepared for it. So first things first, let's go through a few little principles when it comes to that inbound phone call. So let's say that it is an inbound phone call. We'll go through the outbound phone call here shortly. But the first thing that I really want to make sure that everybody does is I want them to make sure that they take control of the conversation. So ring, ring, ring. Hello, this is Ben Brady speaking. Hi, Ben, this is John. I saw your sold sign at 48 Smith Street. We're actually considering selling our property. Would you be able to come over and talk to us about possibly you doing it? Oh, hi, John. Thanks so much for the phone call. I'm absolutely honored that you would think of me. Yeah, no, 38 Smith Street was a great sale. John, I'm actually in the middle of something and I don't want you to think that I'm being rude, but I just can't have a full conversation with you at the moment. And I'm going to need to ask you a few questions about your property and set the appointment up properly. Is it okay if I give you a call back in, say it's 12:54 at the moment? Why don't I give you a call at about 2 o'clock? Does that work for you? Oh, yeah, Ben, that'll be fine. Now, John, will you have about 5 or 10 minutes that we can have a conversation? Will you have that time available at 2 o'clock? Yes, I will. Great. I'll give you a call back then. Thanks for the opportunity, and I'll speak to you shortly. So, what I've done there, guys, if we break out a dialogue just for a moment, I've taken control. Now, I want to make sure that I set the scene here. Regardless of whether I'm sitting at my desk on my computer or with a notepad and pen in my hand ready to go, I'm still going to say that to him so that therefore I can make sure that I get into the mode that I need to be in. Being, I got to ask an appropriate amount of questions, which we'll get to shortly, and I'll share those with you. And I don't want it to seem like I'm rushed. I don't want to miss anything. I want to make sure that I'm in the right frame of mind to go into that conversation. Remember, this is really the first long format conversation that you're going to have with this person, most likely, and you need to be prepared for that. Now let's talk about if you're making outbound phone calls, you're doing phone calls to an expired listing, you're calling your database and you're calling somebody and they say, "Oh, actually, could you come over and talk to us? We're actually considering it in the near future." Okay? I really think it's appropriate that you actually then reset that appointment as well. So, let's do a couple of examples. Let's say you're making expired phone calls and someone says to you, so I'm on there. Hey, look, I have a process that ultimately can help, and we can help you, so on and so forth. Okay, well, yeah, I'd like to hear about it. Great. So what I need to do is that I'm in the middle of actually making some phone calls to your neighborhood at the moment. I need to ask you some more really specific questions about your property, and that'll take between 5 or 10 minutes. Is it okay if I call you back? Time now is around 12:55. Do you mind if I call you back at 2 o'clock and just ask you some specifics about your property? Okay, that's fine. Great. Excellent. Will you have 5 to 10 minutes to talk to me at that time to go through some of the specifics on your property? Well, yes, I will. Okay, great. Because again, I can't go directly from prospecting, guys, and that frame of mind into, oh, okay, right, all right, let's go through this properly. And you'll see why when I take you through the script. This is taking control. And let's face it, some of people that's listening to the podcast or watching the podcast at the moment might say, well, oh, but you lose that lead. Guys, if they're that fragile, you're going to lose it anyway. Okay, take a little bit more control. Let's say it's a phone call to your database, and these are people that, a little bit more warmer calls. It's like ring, ring, ring. Hi, Mary. It's Ben Brady from Harcourts. Just checking in. It's been a little while since I've chatted with you. Have I caught you at a bad time? No. Well, we can speak. Great. I just wanted to call up and say hi. Well, Ben, it's funny that you call. I was talking to John the other night, and we're actually probably considering, selling in the near future. We might want to move up and, move up north and, spend some more time in Oregon. And we're probably going to sell our Californian property and go and do that. It sounds good. Well, hey, I'm really glad that I've called you then. Is there an appropriate time that I can give you a call back? Because at the moment, I'm just in the middle of making calls to all of my clients and I want to make sure that I get through those. Is there an appropriate time this afternoon that I could call you back and we could spend maybe 5 or 10 minutes talking about your property, talking about what you're looking at doing so that I can set up appropriately to come over and set a time up that we can speak about all of this? Oh, sure. Great. Excellent. When would be a good time to do that this afternoon? Well, here. First of all, guys, I think that one, it puts you in a different frame of mind, but two, obviously, it gives a level of importance to yourself as well. But secondly, is that, again, you want to keep doing what you're doing. There's never been a better time. If you are prospecting and you're going through those appointments, there's never been a better time in order to actually sit down and continue to prospect after you've gone, bang, I've got an appointment to call me back this afternoon. You're on a high. Let's go. Let's go. Keep going, guys. Don't break that momentum. What most people would do is they'll dive into that conversation, set the appointment, go, yes, I've got my one. And they probably wouldn't keep going. So it's probably a good momentum builder. But hopefully you'll understand why you need to keep control of this conversation, why you want to make it more specific as we go through those examples. Okay, so let's talk quickly a little bit about the callback. Okay, and the callback is an important part of this process because this is what I believe is the real actual rapport builder, not on the phone, but when you go to the property. And I'll give an example of that here shortly. Okay, so as we go through this, I'm just going to follow the script so that therefore you guys understand what I mean by when we call back. So ring, ring, ring. Okay, it's 2 o'clock. I'm calling one of the appointments back. Ring, ring, ring. Oh, hi, John. It's Ben Brady here from Harcourts Real Estate. I appreciate your patience early on. Okay. Is now a good time to chat about your property that you called me about? Oh, yes, Ben. Great. Excellent. So, hey, look, I obviously want to go through some things with you today. Okay. But just to confirm, you called me because you saw my sold sign. Is that right? Yes. Yeah, we saw the sold sign. Excellent. And you are considering selling in the near future and you just want me to come over and give you an idea of how we do that. What else were you looking for? Oh, well, Ben, we're looking to get an idea of what you think our home is worth. Okay, great. No problem at all. Okay. So look, I just want to make sure that you've got the time. The call's going to be between 5 and 10 minutes. Is that okay with you? Yeah. No, that's fine. Okay, great. Okay. So look, I want to go through with you and get an understanding of your property specifically. I haven't been to your property. So I want to make sure that I do as much due diligence on your property as I possibly can before getting there, because I want to make sure that our meeting is as beneficial as possible, and I want to make sure that I've got the appropriate data to give you so that therefore I'm not misleading in any way, shape, or form. So what I wanted to do is get you to give me a little bit of a virtual tour of your property, if that's okay. Now, when I say virtual tour, John, I really want to dive into some of the details here. So let's start at the front door and let's start at the street appeal of your property. We'll walk through the front door and then we can go through each individual room. I want you to focus on the things and the ideal characteristics of when you bought the property and why you did, but then the improvements that you've made along the way. Do you think you can do that for me today? Yes, yeah, I think I can. Great, excellent. So let's start at the very front. Okay. What type of street appeal does your property have? Would you say it's an attractive property from the street? Oh, absolutely, Ben. It's one of the best looking homes on the block. Now, guys, I want to break out a dialogue here for a moment. Okay. What am I doing here? I'm going to pause this dialogue at the moment. What I'm doing is getting an understanding of their depth of love on the property. But this gives me so many different things here. Now, what I'm going to quickly go through with you is maybe a little, it's maybe a little lethargic and it's a little detailed orientated, but it's so important to being able to build rapport quickly with the person when you get there. It gives you talking points. It stops those awkward interactions, because I believe that the moment that something gets awkward is the moment you don't get the listing. So, give you an example is that what a seller might do if they're not very good with their words, or they're not very good at, the creativity element of things. Not a lot of people are. They might go, oh, it's a 3-bedroom property. It's 2 bathrooms. It's, on this many square feet and blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, John, can we start at the very beginning? What type of street appeal does your property have? Would you say it's an attractive property from the street, or it's sort of average? It's like the other properties. Oh no, it's attractive. All right. So what has that said? John thinks the property is attractive. So what am I going to do when I knock on the door? Hey, John, you were right. This property is one of the better looking ones on the street. There's no question. Great introduction that I can have in the very first degree of that meeting. And then, John, so as I walk up to the front door of the property, do you have a front porch? Do you what does it look like at the front of the property? Oh, well, yeah, Ben, we have a front entryway that overhangs. Okay, great. So if I opened the doorway, what would I find? Or I have like a sort of a foyer area, like a mudroom sort of thing. So like an area to greet people. Is that tile? Yeah, that's tile. Okay, great. Now, where would I go to next in the floor plan? Well, we have a formal living area on the right-hand side. Okay, so formal living area on the right-hand side. Is the tiling, does that go through that, or is that carpet? No, it's carpet. Great, excellent. Give me an idea of what that room looks like. Oh, well, it's pretty large, Ben. It's one of the areas that we spend most of our time in. Great. Okay, well, we replaced the carpet a little while ago. Excellent. Okay, what color is the room? What type of paint are we dealing with here? Okay, well, it's white. We repainted only a little while ago. Excellent. My wife redid the curtains and the blinds. We've pretty much remodeled everything in the home, Ben. We've spent a lot of money here. Again, guys, I'm going into these details here, okay? I'm going into every intricacy of what's going on. Great. So walk me through. If I walk through the living area, where would I go to next? Okay. Is it, that'd take us through to the kitchen/dining area. Okay, excellent. Tell me a little bit about the kitchen/dining area. Okay. And again, some people might be really frustrated with this. Okay. When I say some, very few, but most people want to talk about their property. And when you're on the phone and you're going to this level of detail, guys, the longer you can keep them on the phone, I've got to be honest with you, the better it is when you get there, because this level of detail, nobody's going through prior to even getting there. Remember, I want to remind everybody where we're at. We've just had an inbound phone call, or we've made an outbound phone call where someone said, hey, can you come over? We've said, no. I can't talk about it now. Can I talk about it in an hour's time? Obviously not that way. Okay. However, going back and talking to them, getting them talking about their property is the most important part. All the time, what am I doing? I'm taking notes down. Guys. Now, whether it's on a piece of paper, it's on your iPad, whatever it is, these are the same notes that I'm going to walk into the house with and have right in front of me. Because what am I going to do when I walk in? Oh, you're right, John. This is a great area. I can see why you would spend all your time here in this formal living area. Great flow, like you said, around to the kitchen and the dining room. Excellent. Good choice on the carpet as well. Nobody's going to know this stuff, and they're only hearing it for the first time when they get to the property. Guys, I'll give you an example. I went to a listing presentation one time. The guy went on and on and on in the phone call when I was setting the appointment about his driveway. I got to the front door, and I'm like, Hey, he's like, what's wrong? I'm like, oh, you're right. That driveway is really long and it gives you all the privacy in the world. It took my breath out walking up it. He's like, oh, it's good, isn't it? It's great. And we spoke for 10 minutes about how he had to get, the asphalt down and, he had to get trucks in and all this stuff. It was just automatically, I'm like, I don't even need to do the listing presentation here. This thing's a layup. He might as well sign the contract and I've got it. So guys, this is really, really important stuff when it comes to dealing with somebody about their property. I'm going to say it's not going to work for you every single time, but I haven't seen it work any less than 90% of the time when you're going in there and being able to build rapport. Some sellers don't like the whole virtual tour over the phone, but if you can actually go through it and stomach it and run through that in that level of maybe sometimes excruciating detail, I think it puts you in a really good position when it comes to coming in and getting that. So let's say that you go through the virtual tour, okay? You get to the end of the virtual tour and go, hey, look, thank you for going through so much detail with me. It really is going to give me and empower me to get as much good data to bring you so that then we can really accurately pinpoint where your property sits in the marketplace. I think that that's really, really helpful, okay? Do you mind if I just ask you two more things before we wrap up the call? Yep, sure, no problem. Do you intend on seeing any other agents? Oh, yeah, we've got a couple of others that are coming in. Okay, great. Would it be too bold of me to ask if I can be the last person to see you at all? Well, Ben, actually, we've promised that to another agent. Okay, well, that's fine. I fully respect that. I just, one of the reasons why is that I usually find that if I'm the last in, I can answer a great deal of your questions right at the end. So either way, I just wanted to see if that was an option. Would you mind maybe rescheduling so that I could be last? Oh, okay, yeah, we can call them and let them know. Okay, now guys, I just want to break out a dialogue here. It's people think that what I'm trying to do is so that I can close them. It's actually not the case whatsoever. And you'll find if you go through some of the practical episodes I've got coming up, because I've had so many requests for listing presentation training, is that I'm going to be going through this listing presentation series, and all starting at this point, is that I don't close people. It's one of the most cliche things in real estate and sales I could ever see. It was funny. I was at a conference literally yesterday, and one of the head speakers, he's a sports person that's coming into the business world, and he's talking about his transition, but he was there just to talk about his sporting career. And he said, hey, if anyone's the best closer in the room, okay, I'd love to sit next to you at dinner and talk about it. And everyone pointed towards me and said, oh, Ben's a great closer, and sit next to him and whatever it is. And I was sitting there having dinner with him, and he's like, well, give me the tip of closing. I'm like, don't. It's as simple as that. Be upfront to people that, hey, you're a horrible closer and I hate closing people. Actually say to them and hide out in the open, how would you like to end this meeting? Ask him in the very beginning, be like, guys, I'm really bad at closing and that whole awkward thing to get you to sign a contract. How would you like to move forward? At the end of this meeting today, if everything makes sense, and be upfront about it. Okay. And say to them is that I'm not going to be the one that sits here and goes, all right, well, let's sign the contract, blah, 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 or all those cliche things. Just be upfront, because I've only ever found pressuring somebody into doing something leads to further resentment later if something goes wrong. Okay. So don't force them into that equation, and hide out in the open when it comes to closing. So again, that's a whole nother topic. But when it comes to this part, what I'm talking about here, I've just asked to be the last agent in. It's not to close them. It's so that I can be the advisor on real estate. What usually has happened in any listing presentation that I've ever done or been competing with, especially if it's competitive listing, is that what happens is that if you get to the end of that process, okay, or you're at the very end agent for them to see, one, they are more likely to make a decision, sure, but they've usually got all the questions in the world from all of those other agents that they didn't feel comfortable asking. I think that everybody needs to understand the people that you're sitting in front of and sitting there with, is that a lot of the time, a lot of people think that they know or portray they know a lot more about real estate than what they really do. Most of the time, these sellers are only doing it once every 7, 8, 9, 10 years. So at the end of the day, they don't really know, but they pretend like they do, because a lot of people want to make sure that they sound like they're competent within the real estate space, because it's where most of the wealth is held, so to speak. So they don't really ask the questions. And then they finally get to a point, well, hey, this is at the end. I probably need to ask some of the things that I don't understand. So what you get to do is answer their questions that they've built up from the other agents, and you get to be their real estate advisor. That's really what it comes down to. You get to be the voice of real estate for them. And I think that that's an important step in this. Now, the other part of this, if they've already promised it to somebody else, I always ask them, would you be open to actually calling them and letting them know that I'd be last? Okay. And if they say no, okay, that's fine. To be like, no problem. Hey, I don't want to put you in an awkward spot. But most of the time, people will say yes. Okay. So as we go down this, guys, okay, I'm going to go break back into dialogue. That's why I want to try and be last. Okay. Now, the other thing, okay, would be the other thing is that then I would set up the appointment time. Okay, great. So when would it be? When would I be the last in to see? Okay, well, we're seeing the other person, okay, at 5 o'clock on Thursday. Great. I usually don't like people seeing multiple realtors on the same day. Could I be Friday, the day after that, so that therefore you actually don't hit your real estate agent threshold for the day? Is that okay? Yep, sure. No problem. Great. We find a time that's going to work for them. Now, that I the final thing that I sort of point out in this, okay, so breaking back into dialogue, okay, is that Mr. and Mrs. Seller, or Mr. Seller, if I'm speaking to one of them on the phone, okay, which I would be, is that, hey, look, the last thing that I need to ask is that could you do me a favor and make sure that you don't say yes to anybody else until you've heard what I've had to say? Would that be too bold of me to ask? Well, Ben, no, we intend on seeing everybody else. Okay, good. Okay, now the reason I say that is because uh, there's been so many situations in the past where I've been the last person in because I've requested to do so that I can answer everybody's questions. Okay. But then what's happened is that one of the agents is pressured to seller to sign a contract before they've actually seen me. Now, what that has resulted in most of the time, okay, is the agent that has pressured them to sign the contract is then the property doesn't sell. And then I've got to go in, for lack of better terminology, and mop up the mess later. And I know that's compromised that property by tens, in some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars when it hasn't worked out in the first degree. So I just think that it's just way better strategy for you that if you see all of your options and then make a decision on who you would choose after getting all of the information. I just wanted to make sure that that's what your intentions were. Yeah, well, that definitely is our intentions, Ben. We're going to be seeing everybody and then making a decision. Great. Again, sometimes people get hyped up in the moment and it really does cost them a lot of money in the long run. Let's just make sure that we make an educated decision before moving forward. Great. So again, I've locked you in on Friday, 6 o'clock. Looking forward to seeing you then. Now, just another bit of a heads up. I may take a drive past the property. So if you see a weird card sitting out the front of the property, okay, that'll be me, just to make sure I know the property before I get there. Either way is that I'll probably drive the neighborhood again as well, just and look at a few of the comparables. But thanks so much. Looking forward to seeing you Friday at 6 o'clock. Bam. So guys, there's a lot to unpack in that first phone call. Okay. First of all, you've obviously tapered or tempered yourself, sorry, is what I should say, tempered yourself to actually be in the right frame of mind. So by saying to them, hey, do you mind if I call you back in an hour or this afternoon or whatever it is, then sitting down, getting that virtual tour of the property, asking if you can be the last person in to see them, scheduling that time in, making sure that it's not the same day as the call that you're getting at the moment. Obviously, I probably don't need to point that out to you at this point. Please don't rush over there. But making sure you're not on the same day as every other realtor, okay? I really do believe that if people are seeing one person after the other, it just comes back down to not who's the best for them. It's just really who stood out the most. And, sometimes you might not stand out the most, but you are the best for them. Now, the other part of this as well, asking for the favor is that, hey, you won't sign with anyone else till you hear what I have to say. Just to make sure it's not really, because I don't think a lot of people do that. It's really just to point out the weight of the decision that they're about to make. For example, is that I gave the example of somebody signing with somebody else and then me having to come in and mop up the mess and it costing them tens, if not sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars. I want to make sure that we put gravity on the decision that they're about to make. The decision that they're about to make could possibly do that if they chose the wrong person from the very first degree. So again, I'm just putting weight on the decision that they're making when it comes to choosing an agent. So, guys, I want to now move through this. So let's say that today, what is today? Today, say it's Wednesday. Okay, I've made the appointment for Friday. Now, that morning, okay, I'm going to make a phone call. I always used to make my listing appointments in the afternoon if I could absolutely help it. So even if it was the morning, I'd make sure that then I called them maybe the night before. But I also mentioned in the first phone call that I might be driving past the property. Now, early in my real estate days, I'd always drive past the property because, believe it or not, the first time that when I was selling real estate, I had a situation that happened. Now, I actually used to sell real estate before I had internet on my phone, okay, believe it or not, because I'm so young, whatever, okay, is that I turned up to a listing and there was a listing that came on the market that I didn't know about right beside that property, and they were going to ask me about that property. So I actually called them and let them know that I was going to be late, ran back to the office, looked that listing up so that I'd be informed, because if I walked into that property and I didn't see that listing or didn't know about that listing or didn't even know what the price of it was, okay, is that I could have called the agent. I didn't want to, because that would have been pretty obvious of what was happening, and they're probably one of my competitors as well. But realistically is that I wanted to go back to the office quickly and find out what it was, okay, how much it was on the market for, all the information about it. So I would always drive the neighborhood beforehand. Now, you probably have the luxury that you can pull it up on your phone if you ever got surprised. However, it is a good thing to be able to do to show you're taking one step further. So this is the follow-up phone call. This is the day of the appointment or the evening before, the day before if it's in the morning. And the primary focus I need to point out here, guys, is finding price. Finding price. Okay, so let me go through the dialogue. Ring, ring. Hi, John. It's Ben Brady here from Harcourts Real Estate, just down the road. I just wanted to give you a quick call and confirm our appointment for tonight at 6 o'clock. Oh, yeah, Ben, we're looking forward to it. Great, excellent. Look, the reason I wanted to call is I wanted to just make sure that I pointed out, maybe last night you might have saw my car. It was parked out the front of your property. I was just quickly doing a drive past the neighborhood. I'm sorry if you thought it was a weird car and whatever it is, but I was just doing some research for today. You didn't see me, did you? He's like, oh, no, I don't think I did. Okay, no problem. That's fine. Hey, look, the reason I was driving around is because I wanted to look at a few of the comparables that are in the market at the moment that had sold. Do you know the property at 38 Smith Street down the road from you? Oh, yeah, we saw that. Okay, great. That one sold for $550,000, 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom. Okay, it was about the same size as yours as well. Is that home better or worse than yours, do you think? Oh, no, ours is way better. Okay, all right, great. Again, this is the purpose of this. I want to bring accurate data across with me, John. So what are we talking? Are we talking 550 to 6 or 6 to 650? What are we talking here? He's like, oh, 6 to 650. Okay, great, no problem. Excellent. Now, what I've done there is I've quickly gotten an idea of where he stands from a price perspective. Now, you guys might be sitting there at the moment. You might be sitting there at the moment listening, whatever you're doing, okay, and you might go, oh, well, Ben, no one's going to give up price to you that easy. Well, you'd be surprised, first of all, okay? That's 70% of the conversations that I've ever had is pretty much, here it is straight away, because you've used a comparable, you were driving around, you were looking at it, okay, you compared their home, they're going to tell you their home's better than that one anyway. Now, if they don't know it, I'm going to go through and I'm going to rattle off many, many different listings that are in front of me. The reason I do a follow-up phone call, one, obviously more touch points, but two, is that I want to have all of the properties that have sold in that individual marketplace that I can go through as many times as possible. So let's say this. Let's say, John, I drove past 38 Smith Street. Do you know that property? No, I don't know that property. Look, it sold for $550,000. Would your home be better or worse, do you think? Okay? Or no, it would be better. Well, are we 550 to 6, 6 to 650? Well, Ben, that's why I've got you coming over. Like, I don't know. Well, John, there was another one actually locally. Did you see the other one? It was a couple of streets over. It was 48 Mary Street. Did you see that one? No, I didn't, Ben. I didn't. That one was actually 6 to 650. Sorry, 600. Is your home would be better, do you think? Well, I didn't really see that property. Was there a property locally that sold that you saw recently? Oh, I don't really pay much attention, Ben. Okay, great. Well, just a quick question. What are your expectations? Is it between 6 to 650, 650 to 7? Again, without seeing the property and actually understanding it, I could bring all of this method of data and we have to pinpoint it and it's not as accurate. I'd rather bring a snapshot in the range that you're considering. So what are your thoughts? Oh, well, we definitely need more. Guys, I've never met somebody on a phone call that wasn't a reasonable human being. That's the caveat, okay, is that there wasn't a reasonable human being that wouldn't actually give you an indication of what the value is, guys. I'm breaking out a dialogue here to go, if they will not give you a price, they're assholes, and I don't know if I want to deal with assholes, okay? It'd be like, guys, if you're this, and this would be the conversation, if they were like, no, I'm not telling you, you need to give me a price, which really I've never really had somebody that aggressive, is that I'd say, John, I fully respect the fact that you're asking me to give you a value of property, but I'm actually of the opinion that my opinion of your value doesn't matter because I'm not willing to strike a check for it. With all due respect, even your opinion of value might not matter. Yes, it will be the deciding factor, but it might not matter. So all in all, if you're not willing to share this information with me now, I think that we're starting off the relationship on the wrong foot. And I might not be the right person for you because I want to bring you actual appropriate data that serves the purpose of saying, yes, we can get what you need, or no, we can't. Many others would just simply blow wind and say, yeah, we can get you that. I'm not looking to do that with you, John. Hopefully you can respect that. So, guys, I don't want you to build up this green monster in the back of your mind. It's really quite simple. The conversation usually is, John, I actually drove past 38 Mary Street. Did you see that one when it was on the market? Oh, no, we looked at it online. Okay, great. Your home better or worse? Well, it's better. Sold for 550. So are we 550 to 6 or 6 to 650 better? What are we talking here? Okay. Oh, well, 600 plus for sure. Okay. All right, great. No worries. I just wanted to confirm. No problem. I just don't want to bring you some stuff that isn't relevant to your home because I haven't been there yet. Even though you did such a good job the other day, John, giving me the virtual tour. So, guys, I hope you can understand what I'm doing here. I'm going through and putting all of that stuff in play. So John said, well, 6 to 650. Great, John. I appreciate you being so open with me. I'm going to see you tonight at 6 o'clock. Looking forward to it, and looking forward to seeing the home that I think I already know. I've already visualized it, so it'll be good. Thanks so much. So, guys, I have to be honest. At this point, me walking into that property, have you ever had nerves walking into a listing presentation? I have. And when I have, it means that I haven't been armed with enough information to build rapport with them quickly. Right now, even doing this, I'm excited to go to John's property. I actually am. If John was a real person, I'd already had that conversation and I knew about his carpet that he'd put in and all that different stuff and different talking points and that he thinks his home's the best looking property on the street and all of that type of stuff. I'm actually excited to go there because this is going to be a layup. This is easy. I've already won it. It's so good. I just need to now make sure that I hit the individual dominoes that I've got in my listing presentation in order to make sure that I don't mess it up along the way. And I think that it's pretty much done at this point. So that might be a level of confidence that I've got knowing how well this stuff works, but it's really important you do as well. The other part of this as well, guys, is sending out a pre-listing kit. Now, normally what would have happened before that second phone call, I would have sent out a pre-listing kit to them already. Okay, and what I mean by that is that my assistant, somebody in the office that was a friend, or if I dropped it off, I would just quickly knock on the door, let them know, here it is. Hey, John, I've got my car running. I'm on the way to another appointment. Looking forward to seeing you. Here it is. Okay, or just leaving it on the doorstep. But some people are in the position of taking it with them. I don't really mind because you're calling people before you go that many times that I've already discussed. Whether you take it to them before and whether you take it to them after is up to you in the way that you're running your business at this point. Okay. I think that if you're looking for further touch points, then hey, sure. With that said, you've got to be careful that if you're dropping it off, that you knock on the door, that they don't dive into the conversation with you too early with your pre-listing kit. Okay. You've got to make sure, hey, I've got the door open. I'm going to another appointment. In that pre-listing kit, however, okay, it's important there's a few little essentials in there. I think that the main one that I want to talk about is that I want you to make sure that you are including your listing agreement with sign here stickers on that listing agreement. I know all of us DocuSign agreements now, but having the actual listing contract in there, I don't know that there's too much other information that you need to really put in there that's of really much substance. I find that I would say 50% of the people look at it before you go, 50% of it don't. Now, it's important probably to put some marketing and testimonials and all the standard shit that you know already. But making sure that listing contract is in there, making sure that listing agreement has their names filled out, leave commission and price blank, okay, and just have the sign here stickers in because it really formats the intent of what the meeting is about and puts it there that if they've looked at it, then away you go. But all in all, guys, nowadays, I also think that instead of actually a pre-listing pack in person, a preemptive emails, people are so big on their emails now that takes them through all of that stuff as well. And maybe it attaches the listing agreement on there also. That could be even better as well because then they can go through and they can do their research on you beforehand. They can look at the websites. They can dive into maybe some of the digital testimonials, the videos you might have, and look up individual properties of success and everything along those lines. I really think the digital format could be the new way to go with all of this versus just something physically there. Leaving something behind would be important in the listing presentation, but maybe not prior to. It just depends on the touch points that you're looking for. But guys, I hope that you've been able to understand today the format that I've taken you through. And the format that I've taken you through is taking control from the very beginning and setting the boundaries of that relationship by letting them know, regardless of how the call comes in or that you're making the call, is that, hey, I'll call you back so that then I can take those notes and then I can respect time, blah, 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 blah. Okay? Calling them back, getting a virtual tour of the property. Okay? Making sure also okay, that you're the last agent in to see them could be a really big step. Don't push it too hard, okay? And then making sure also that they give you a word that they won't sign with anyone else until they've heard what you have to say, just to put some gravity and some weight on the situation. Next part of this is then getting price out of them before you go. This probably is the most important part to making sure that you are appealing to them in the right manner, understanding where they're coming from in the first degree. There's one final point that I will make with all of this work that goes into it beforehand. Understanding price, but then also the virtual tour of the property, walking into the property, okay, and understanding what their point of view of the property was. Oh, we've fully remodeled it. You walk in, fully remodeled it, maybe 20 years ago, okay, gives you a really clear understanding of what their perception of their own property really is, or what type of person that they are. Give an example of that is that I remember standing next to somebody one day after I'd done this call. Okay, we walked into the property, and when I was in the appointment, they told me they had an open plan floor plan. I'm like, I walk in, there has got to be 7 walls between the front door and the kitchen in a single story residential property. I'm like, this is not open plan. I didn't say that. I'm thinking it. I'm like, Then I went outside and they're like, oh yeah, this is the view I was talking about. I'm like, I didn't say this, but I was like, where? Where is the view? There is no view. Okay. So again, gave me a really clear understanding that that person is really in love with their property. They think there's attributes to the property that aren't there, that they think are there. It gives me an understanding of what that person's going to be like and how to tailor my presentation to them, and maybe I make a decision of whether or not this is going to be a poor investment of my time. Guys, hopefully this has been helpful. We're going to continue this listing presentation series on with the next part, which is setting the agenda and going through those different parts. But again, guys, these aren't going to be one after another. We're going to stagger these across the podcast and the practical sessions. Hope you enjoyed, and thanks for listening to Rethink Real Estate. So about 75% of our audience hasn't liked, followed, or subscribed to our podcast. It would mean the world to us, and it would help this podcast more than you know to expand our reach if you were to like, follow, or subscribe on any of the platforms that you're watching or listening on. Thanks again.